Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, Rogue is in a very peculiar state right now in Season 2 where it feels absolutely fantastic all around. Obviously not quite as busted as our magic-wielding sorcerer compatriots, at least not in general, but we do fantastic damage, we have great evasive and defensive options and maneuvers, and our survivability is still pretty dang solid once you get into a proper build with good affixes on it. But that's not enough, of course. That opening clip you saw there was from Woody Joe, who took advantage of a new bug in Season 2 exclusively for Rogue that makes it just absolutely annihilate anything that it touches. It is obviously stupidly powerful, it's broken, and it seems like a crazy oversight until you find out how it happened. It's centered around the new unique Tibaults Will. At maximum upgrades, one of the affixes is plus 8 to 20 maximum resource, and in every normal instance that refers to your energy or equivalent, but for rogues it is for some reason also applicable to combo points. So if you get a plus 20 maximum resource roll on these pants, you get 23 maximum combo points as a general just state of being. This is what is just causing those crazy one-shots that you may be seeing around on occasion, though of course there is a bit more to it, but that is the basic concept. Building combo points nearly 800% past their regular maximum, and then the scaling of the skills continues multiplying as it goes up. That said, even though the developers have been quite clear that there are no nerfs planned for Season 2, I think it's safe to say that that only applies to things that aren't silly bugs like this one is. So I would expect this to be fixed in like a week or two, if not even sooner if they decide it's a really big deal. But even with that said, it's a bug that is here right now in the game, and for those of you who have Tibault's Will and want to try not only using this bug, but bringing it to the absolute maximum, I've got a build for you today to do exactly that in a really fun way. At least I have to imagine it's fun. I've killed Duriel 15 or more times so far myself and not seen these pants drop once, so I'm using the fully unbugged version of this build. And here's the kicker, I'm still doing tier 60 nightmare dungeons at level 84 using the unbugged version of something that I built fully to work around that bug. Killing enemies 30 levels above you with this shows that, hey, even once the bug is fixed, this will still be a nasty strong build. And even if you choose not to abuse the bug but want to try a fun mixed core ranged build, this is a really solid one to mess with. With all that said, I'll dive into further concepts and explanations as we go over each of our choices. First, we'll start off with where to put your skill points, of course. Then we'll talk about your legendaries and uniques and where you want them for this build, gearing practices in general for the build too, your vampiric powers of choice for your Season 2 specific mechanic, which will really boost it as much as possible, and then of course your Paragon board setup the whole way through, followed by just a bit of an overview of any tips that I've got with my time playing the build so far. Starting off then with the skill points, we're of course going to be going with Puncture, and while this is a big source of vulnerable application, the main reason that we are going with this in general, as well as taking Enhanced Puncture and then also Fundamental Puncture, is because this is simply the fastest hitting basic skill that Rogue has, and it can hit 3 times per cast as well because of Fundamental. This really synergizes extremely well with other functions of our build, so it's important to mention that part here too. Then along the core skills node cluster, we are going to be having quite a bit of business here. We're going to be taking the full 5 ranks in Rapid Fire, as well as Enhanced Rapid Fire, and then also Improved Rapid Fire too. This is your single target spender, as this is a dual core build. The main reason that Rapid Fire is so good for this here is that you have to remember the main bug triggering is combo points stacking above the maximum. So the best way to take advantage of this is with core skills that gain the most from combo points. Rapid Fire gains bonus damage, which is great, but even more importantly, it gains bonus arrows. More arrows per cast, more combo points that you have. This gives you extra chances to trigger lucky hit chances. It messes with the enhancement that gives you 5% bonus crit chance per arrow fired as well with Rapid Fire, which scales ridiculously well of course when you start firing out a dozen arrows, and then that just makes it do insane things in a single target fight. Improved Rapid Fire is mostly just to curtail the energy cost and let you spam it properly if it's ever necessary to do so. Then we take the full 5 ranks and Penetrating Shot as well as our second core skill and your main method of group clear. This just fires in a straight line through all of your enemies, and we make it cover much more ground with a certain aspect. The main reason that it's used here is again because of combo point synergy, where this gains a ton of damage per combo point spent, but also lucky hit chance, which is quite interesting to mess with because you can pretty much guarantee with this bug that Penetrating Shot will trigger any and all lucky hits it possibly can as a result. After that, we also grab the enhancement for Penetrating Shot 2, which gives you increasing damage per enemy hits, and then also improved Penetrating Shot to give it bonus crit chance on the next cast after damaging multiple enemies with it on the previous one. Then we're going to be taking 3 ranks in the Sturdy passive here, just for a nice bit of bonus damage reduction before moving on to the next skill node cluster. Here we're going to be grabbing Shadow Step, both for the mobility that it offers, and also the fact that it grants us Unstoppable, allowing us to activate the actual intended effect of Tibault's Will for up to 40% multiplicative increased damage that will just be consistently active. Then also Enhanced Shadow Step for bonus crit chance, and then Discipline Shadow Step, which lowers the cooldown of the skill when used on an enemy not recently targeted by it. After that, we grab 3 ranks in Weapon Mastery as a passive just for the potent reward of 15% increased damage to healthy enemies with daggers, or 9% increased damage in general with swords. Then we move on to the next cluster, and here we're going to be grabbing Dark Shroud. The main reason for this is that the damage of this build, just in general, is absolutely nuts. Even without the bug, the damage is more than good enough. What you want more of really is survivability, and Dark Shroud helps provide that, as well as also giving you movement speed through the Subverting Dark Shroud upgrade that we take here too. Then we of course are going to be taking some classic passives in this cluster, with 3 ranks of Exploit for bonus damage to both healthy and injured enemies, as well as 3 ranks of Malice for bonus damage against vulnerable enemies, which they pretty much always are going to be. After that, we're going to round over and pick up our last active skill, which is Poison Imbuement, and we're going to want all 5 ranks of it. You could choose to use Shadow Imbuement instead if you really wanted to, but my logic here is that random trash mobs die quickly and easily enough that Shadow Imbuement's a little bit overkill for that. I'd much rather have Poison for the things that can survive more than a single hit. We then also grab Enhanced Poison Imbuement, of course, for increased duration, and then Blended Poison Imbuement, which actually makes it do more poison damage if the skill that is used on happens to crit as well. Of course, synergizing with our massive combo point, Rapid Fire's growing crit chance. Then just some passives here, 1 rank of Deadly Venom, just as a actual gateway for 3 ranks of Debilitating Toxins for 15% damage reduction on poisoned enemies, as well as 1 rank of Alchemical Advantage for get you just some little bit of attack speed for every poison enemy around you. I quite like the value of this, even just at 1 rank, just for group clear scenarios. Moving on to the ultimate node cluster, then we take exclusively passives, and we're going to be getting 3 ranks in Innervate for 30% lucky hit chance to regain 8 energy. The obvious combo here is Penetrating Shot gains lucky hit chance with combo points, so this lets Penetrating Shot get a ton of energy refund as well when used, letting it be used at high energy more consistently. Then we just have 1 rank of Adrenaline Rush here, mostly as a gateway to get 3 ranks of Impetus, which normally isn't all that great at all, but it increases the damage of your next non-basic skill after moving 12 meters. And there's some interesting ways that you can actually use this, because there were some extra skill points just floating around the build, so I decided to put them into this skill to really just accentuate the silly one-shot boss kill shenanigans this build can do, as a 21% multiplier is a pretty hefty amount that you can have added on to your singular skill press of murdering a boss if you just move around a bit first. Then of course 3 ranks of Haste for 15% increased move speed when above 50% energy, and 15% increased attack speed when below 50%. Then finally, our key passive of choice in this build is actually Victimize for a 45% lucky hit chance to explode around a target for 23% of the base damage of the original hit, with the damage of this explosion being increased multiplicatively by your vulnerable damage bonus. This is just absolutely perfect for this build, and I'll give you 2 very simple reasons why. 15 to 20 combo point Penetrating Shot is going to get a ton of lucky hit triggers, obviously, and the explosion that triggers scales with the original damage. It's not a flat damage explosion, it scales with your really high damage because of the combo points on the Penetrating Shot, which makes it just really solid. Then alternatively, we have Rapid Fire, which gains arrows per combo point spent, so yes, only 20% lucky hit chance in general on the skill, but that's 20% per arrow, so stick a solid 15 combo points on there, and suddenly this key passive is going to just get a ton of good in no matter which core that you're using, whether it be an AoE or single target scenarios. It's just perfect as a synergy here. With that, then let's talk about the legendaries and uniques that make this as broken as it gets. Of course, obviously number 1 is Tibault's Will, which would of course be in my leg slot
if I had one. Sorry.
But instead, I am running Temerity because, again, I don't have Tibault's Will. It is the total opposite of Tibault's Will, really being a purely defensive option, but the build functions really nicely with it if you happen to not have Tibault's Will. That said, when comparing multiple pairs of Tibault's Will, for the bug's sake at least for now, you want to use the one that has the higher maximum resource roll. 20 combo points is a silly concept for a reason, and it's a lot better than 11 combo points. Then we have the second contributor to this massive bug, which is the Condemnation Dagger. Up until now, you may have been wondering how you could make this into a proper build, really. After all, 23 maximum combo points is funny, but it still means that you have to actively build up 23 combo points first, right? You can't use that just for generally walking around the world. Well, this dagger is the secret. It has an inbuilt 30% chance to make any basic skill grant you 3 combo points, or at least that's what it says, because what it means is it has a 30% chance to grant you maximum combo points. So combine that with the pants increasing your maximum combo points, and you can see where this all gets really nasty, is you just get a 30% chance per basic skill cast to fill up completely, which is a major reason why we both chose Puncture as our basic skill for its attack speed, and why we also just have a pretty notable focus on attack speed increase in the build in general. Those are the only two uniques that are required to make this function at a silly level, but of course we are trying to create a perfect build here, so there are a couple more that really boost it up. First being Grasp of Shadow, a maximum upgrade that has +6 ranks to all core skills. That is 2 more than you can normally get from gloves, and it applies to both of the core skills too that we're using because we're using 2 core skills. It also has a nice attack speed roll on it too, and the Shadow Clone summon chance is perfectly fine because again, Shadow Clone scales off your own damage. Anything that does that will be silly strong within this build. Then for our last unique is the Banished Lord's Talisman. The resource regen part of it is nice, the bonus 2 ranks to core skills is actually fantastic for a talisman, but the fun part here is every 300 energy that we spend is a guaranteed overpower, and overpowers that also crit do a metric truckload of damage as the secondary effect. Now keep in mind that Rapid Fire has a growing crit chance per arrow shot, and you can see where the one-shots are coming from with this build. Stupidly high combo point Rapid Fire with high crit chance, specifically used on the guaranteed overpower proc from this amulet, which then stacks the damage significantly like a whole new multiplier. Combine that with the possible victimize procs as well, and this just gets absolutely ridiculous way too fast. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, the synergies here are so strong that even without using the bug, this is still really quite strong and enjoyable too. Then we just have our regular legendaries, of course. In your 2-handed slot, you're going to want to have the Edge Masters aspect for tons of bonus damage when casting skills at full energy. Then for your other offensive legendaries, you want the Rapid aspect for bonus up to 30% attack speed on your basic skills to try and proc your combo points. Then you want Expectant for 30% bonus damage on core skills after casting a few basic skills first, which is just a natural fit for a combo point based build. Then you want the Trick Shot aspect, which is what makes Penetrating Shot branch off into a labyrinth of damage when it hits enemies, shooting off secondary arrows when connecting with the target. Then on our boots, we're going to have the Ravager aspect. This gives you higher uptime on Unstoppable, which give you higher uptime on Tibault's Will's main effect, so it's absolutely worth it for obvious reasons. Then of course for our last couple of defensives, we're going to be using the aspect of Might for constant 20% damage reduction. We're constantly using basic skills, so this is just always active. Then we have Disobedience for tons of armor generation as we do damage. Quite simply, it's just very strong right now, as long as you also sort out your elemental resistances separately. That covers the actual aspects and uniques then. What about the actual stats to aim for? Well, the uniques are unique, so you can't really change the stats on those, but offensively you want as many pure damage affixes as possible, with vulnerable being a little bit better than it is for most builds because of the victimize key passive. Then defensively, you want bonus maximum life as much as possible, you want bonus total armor as much as possible, and then you want at least 1 stat bonus to each resistant at a decent roll across your armor. Then if you just get like a couple of diamonds in here in your jewelry, you can pretty much just max out every resistance very easily once you've actually upgraded things, and it's really nice. With that then, let's talk about the Vampiric Powers, and these will likely seem a bit familiar if you've seen my other rogue builds. I think there are just 2 really strong combos that are really hard to break up without good reason. You want the Ravenous Power, absolutely. This gives you lucky hit chance to gain attack speed equal to 40% of your total movement speed. As rogues, we also gain high movement speed in combat, and we also absolutely love attack speed in general, so this is just really just so important. Comboing that, we have Moonrise as well, which gives you bonus attack speed stacking after using a basic skill, and then gives you basic skill damage and movement speed at 5 stacks. Then we combine that with the Undying Power as well, which heals you for 3% maximum life every time you use any skill. That's upwards of 100% bonus attack speed between these two, combined with every attack healing us massively, so that's just obviously really super strong. Then we have our second combo, which is Prey on the Weak for a nice chunk of bonus vulnerable damage, which of course affects our key passive, but also the secondary effect of making any enemy affected by the Vampiric Curse also be vulnerable. Then we combo that with a Cursed Touch to give us high lucky hit chance to apply Vampiric Curse, as well as increasing the damage of the releasable souls. As a full combo of 5 powers, this stays within your packed budget, which is great, but it accomplishes just so much good as far as buffing our character in various ways and actually moving towards the goals that our build already had in general. Then let's round off this section with a nice chat about our Paragon board all the way through. On the starting board, then you want to head up the right side through the damage increase rare node and snake up through the dexterity here to reach the glyph socket, and here you want to stick in the Ranger glyph. This increases all marksman skill damage, so you know it's very good for us. Then you want to grab all the remaining rare nodes here for bonuses they provide, as well as all the dexterity in the radius before heading up the left side and attaching on the cheap shop board here with the legendary power on the bottom side of it. Head up the left side through the board through the oppress rare node here, which just gives you double damage bonuses, so that's great. Then wrap around to get the legendary node itself for 5% increased damage for each nearby crowd controlled enemy, up to a 25% maximum. Then you want to continue right and wrap down through all the rare magic nodes here, which gives you a bunch of damage reduction from elites and also armor, which is just fantastic in both cases. Then you want to go back up to our left path here, head up, and then wrap around to get to the glyph socket, where you can stick in the efficacy glyph in here for bonus strength to the nearby rare nodes, but more importantly, 20% increased imbuement potency. After that, make sure to grab the rare nodes in the area as well, and at least most of the intelligence. We do lose a few points here to be able to reach our specific endpoint. After that, we head up and out through the top side of the board specifically, and attach on the No Witnesses board with the glyph socket on the close side and the legendary power on the far side. You want to progress up the left side of the board like so, grabbing the rare and magic nodes along the way to get to the glyph socket, where here you're going to be putting in your exploit glyph, of course. And this gives you bonus damage to vulnerable enemies, which also helps stack your victimized key passive damage. After that, you want to grab the other rare node in here, as well as all the strength nodes in the radius to boost that exploit glyph further, and then head back to the cheap shop board. This time we're going to be heading out the left side, taking a stop at the calculated rare node up here, of course, to actually just do this little hook here. It just gives you so much extra damage and a bit of extra armor. It's really hard to say no to. Then you want to head out the left side and attach on Leyrana's Instinct as a board with the glyph socket in the bottom right corner. Head there along the path that I've gone with here to grab yourself some more all resist rare node goodness, and then stick in the control glyph in the socket for bonus damage to crowd controlled enemies. Wrap around the bottom to get the rare nodes here, as well as the extra powerful magic intelligence nodes that will boost us even further. And then you want to head to get the other intelligence nodes, except for this one, because we're going to be just taking this path up and left here to get to these attack speed increasing magic and rare nodes, which are just extremely important to actually have for us, because again, attack speed is just really good. After that, we're going to be heading back to the cheap shop board one final time, and this time we're going out from the right side of the glyph socket, and we're going to be heading up to the armor and damage against healthy enemies nodes, and then wrap down to then attach the tricks of the trade board with the glyph socket on the bottom left corner. Progress this board directly right so that you can grab this rare node here for extra damage to elites, then wrap down and grab the glyph socket itself to stick in the chip glyph for bonus physical damage that also has a stacking effect the more that you hit an enemy, which is fantastic for high combo point rapid fire especially. Then you want to grab the armor, rare, and magic nodes that are nearby, then easily accessible dexterity that's here too to boost the glyph, before heading down and attaching our final board, Cunning Stratagem, with the legendary node in the top right corner. Simply use the exact amount of points you have left to efficiently reach this node through the all resist nodes that you have here, just a little bit of bonus, and then you can get the legendary node, which gives you a 33% increase on all non-damage parts of your combo points when a skill is used with 3 or more combo points, meaning it boosts the things like lucky hit chance gain on penetrating shot even further, just for a nice little cherry on top of everything else that we have going on. That does it then as far as how to put the whole thing together, so let's talk about how to play it. As far as general practices, you always want to be at high energy because of edge masters, and then you want to use penetrating shot for groups of enemies, or rapid fire for single target priorities like bosses, or just particularly pesky elites that you want gone fast. If you aren't playing the bugged version, you basically want to alternate puncture and core skill to fish for procs and keep up the big damage. But if you are playing with Tibault's Will, you absolutely want to keep puncturing until you get a proc. It's a 30% chance, so it's not low by any means, and then you can just one-shot anything in front of you with no issue afterwards. Poison Imbuement is great for just adding on additional damage to whatever you're using. There's no reason not to apply it really, the cooldown is short, and then Shadow Step is of course your movement tool and escape from crowd control, which you also want to use extremely regularly if you have Tibault's Will to keep the unique effect active. Other than that, use Dark Shroud whenever necessary and blast your heart's content with your core skills. That's it for today then everyone, a nice fun dual core ranged rogue build that also happens to be the best configuration to take advantage of a bug that was recently found in Season 2, which gives rogue access to an absolute buttload of maximum combo points. Who knows how long this bug will last, but if you have these legs, this is your chance to experience the just busted levels of power that you could possibly reach for just a little bit and just mess around, you know? Of course, you'll be switching back eventually, but you might as well try it. If you don't have the legs though, this build is still extremely fun to use. Everything in this video, footage-wise, except that intro clip that I've shown, are without using the legs at all, so you can see it's still very strong and a fun gameplay loop as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video then, and I hope you enjoy this build if you try it out for yourself as well. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.